everybody, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. Today I'm here to debunk 5 I'm too old to learn guitar myths. And I thought of this when I thought back to my teaching career, and I thought of how many older students came in. And whether it was just them coming in for the first time for lessons and doubting that they could learn, or if it was a parent of a student. This would actually happen a lot, where a parent would bring their son or daughter in for lessons and they would kind of hang out. You could see them sort of listening, off to the side. And eventually I'd find out that they were always interested in playing, but they always said that they thought they were too old to start learning. So I thought the best way to convey the message today is to actually just answer the top 5 concerns that a lot of older students had, that kept them from wanting to actually take lessons and start learning guitar. First thing a lot of them would say is, I don't even know how to read music, so there's no way I could ever play guitar. And I always kind of laughed, and they thought it was weird that I was laughing at them, because I was like, you know what, you're going to feel way better after I explain this. Okay, so I understand that a lot of us started off on like the recorder in 2nd grade, at least my generation did. And, afterwards, a lot of us just handed it back in, or we just forgot about it. We never pursued it. And a lot of people act like if you didn't just start learning how to read music at that age, there's no way you're ever going to play guitar when you get older, but that is not true. It was so fun showing them chord charts and tablature, and actually showing them that they could play songs almost instantly if they just learned how to read these very simple charts or numbers. I had one guy in particular that I remember really well, because he was close to his 70s. He may have been in his 70s. But I showed him how to read a chord chart, and before the end of the first lesson, he was playing these 2 chords. And I told him to strum while he changed, and he started going like this. And it took him a little bit to switch, but eventually he did. And I said, bam, that's Horse with No Name right there. You just played a song with those 2 chords. Another older student freaked out when I showed him how to play the 2 chords in rumble. And his eyes lit up. He's like, I can't believe it's just 2 chords like that. I'm like, well, there's more to the song, but that's the main part right there. And even though I do encourage people to eventually learn at least the open position of notation, where you're actually reading notes, actually reading music, I don't throw that on people right away. I introduce it later on slowly. But if you know how tab works, it's just a numbering system that tells you which fret to play on which string. You could learn licks, you could learn riffs at record speed, and it always surprises new students. So get that I can't read music stuff out of your head right now, because you could still learn how to play guitar very effectively right off the bat, even if you've never read one note in your life. The next thing I hear a lot from people that don't think they can start guitar when they're older is that they say, I'll never be in a band, I'm too old to ever make it big, so what's the point? My response to that is a little bit depressing, because I tell them right off the bat, even if you were 18 and you were really good at guitar, it's still going to be really, really difficult to make it big in the industry these days. However, the older you get, usually you find different reasons to play this instrument than to just make it big. Making it big sounds kind of like a young person's dream, you know what I mean? And sort of an outdated thing nowadays, especially because almost anybody can make it big in a way. For example, I just saw a guy the other day playing Iron Maiden's Wasted Years, and he just played the guitar and he sang it in a really cool way, and it's got over 2 million views. I have friends and ex-students that went on to be in very successful bands that have never played in front of 2 million people total. So we live in a different time, where making it big is no longer jumping in a tour bus, touring the world, doing all that kind of stuff, signing to a record label. Making it big and getting famous in a way can actually be done just in your living room these days. It's wild. And I know this from direct experience, that the older you get, the less traveling the country in a tour bus sounds appealing. But being able to play the guitar and express yourself and be creative and still get noticed, online, like I said, could sometimes even more than make up for all that chaos of touring that you probably don't want to do as much anymore. Not to mention that the older you get, the more important it is to be less stressed out. And when you start to get decent at guitar and you could just look forward to playing your favorite songs all the time whenever you want, it gets to the point where it's a real stress reliever. If you had a tough day, you sit down, you start strumming some chords, you just feel completely different. So I personally know the therapeutic side of the guitar. Trust me, I'm 87 years old. Just kidding. The third thing I hear a lot from older students, or I should just say the more mature students, is that they think they're old and that their hands are now decrepit and unable to play what they would have been able to play when they were younger. They say, yeah, my hands feel stiff, not very flexible. I don't think I'll be able to do all that stuff that you need to play the guitar. And if it's a very first lesson, I always start them off by doing the spider warm-up, and then we do the finger yoga, which I teach on my website, which is a really cool way to open your hand up, especially if you do it gradually. They'll struggle to do a new chord, and we'll do some of this finger yoga, and all of a sudden their hands can reach the frets. And that's always a great moment. And whenever somebody says, I could never shred on the guitar, my hands are just too decrepit, I always tell them, unless you have like serious arthritis and you have a medical condition that keeps you from playing and being able to press down on the strings, you should be okay. Look at this guy named Django Reinhardt. And I show them a clip of it, and it's this guy shredding with 2 fingers. So I'm like, you have all 4 fingers. Usually they do. And so there's no excuses here. And then the third thing I like to show them whenever they really doubt themselves is I tune the guitar to an open tuning. And then I just press down and I make it sound really good just with that. And then you could see that there's a lot you could do with guitar without making real difficult chord shapes right off the bat. If you do open tuning and you just play one string and move up and down, you can make a lot of great music. You can also modify and simplify on the guitar quite a bit. So let's say a song calls for this bar chord. It's just a full major bar chord shape. Well, you could get away with doing what's called a power chord, which is a 2-note version of that. So let's say you're playing, Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz. Well, you could just go, and it still sounds really great, but with a lot less pressure on the hand. The fourth thing that I hear a lot is that people think that their brains aren't going to be able to handle the complexity of guitar. They always say like, yeah, when I was younger, my brain could pick things up really quick, but now I'm afraid, my brain is seized up. It's really hard for me to learn anything new. This is when I get really excited because I know how beneficial learning something new can be to any brain at any age. And then I love to ease their mind by asking them to guess how many chords are in their favorite song. Usually they'd say some high number like 10 or 15 or 20, and I'd be like, you're in for quite a shock. I'm pretty sure that your favorite songs are 3 or 4 chords. Of course, one guy just had to say Steely Dan, and then I'm like, okay, that's a different story. But if you're talking about a lot of other people's favorite songs, like from Clapton, Hendrix, you're talking 3 to 4 chords a lot of the time.
Where I come from isn't all that great. My automobile is a piece of crap. My fashion sense is a little whack, and my friends are just as screwy as me. I didn't go to boarding school.
And he didn't believe me, so I just strummed the chords to Wonderful Tonight. Like, there's only 4, so that should give you some hope. Once they know that they don't have to play 20 chords per song, they know they could remember 3 or 4, they feel a lot better. Plus, I tell them that nowadays, if you go see bands live, even like a kid's band, like a teenager band or something, a lot of them have an iPad on stage. So they're going off, reading something off of a screen. So why do you think you need to memorize everything? We live in different times. I still like to memorize as much as possible to challenge myself. But, a lot of people choose to have something to follow while they're playing their song. Plus, you're going to be at home. Nobody's going to care if you're reading off a computer screen. And that's another great thing about learning nowadays is that you have all this technology in order to, have chords in front of you. You could have backing tracks. You could have tablature, just at a few clicks. So you live in a really good time to start now. If you were learning guitar back in the 80s when there was no internet, it's kind of a different story back then, to the access you would have to all that kind of media. And the last one I'll bring up today is that a lot of people used to say something to the effect of, I don't know how much time I'm going to have to practice. I'm not going to be able to practice every day. The wife or the husband's busting my hump. That's an old saying. Now, you really have to understand something. It is not Leave It to Beaver days anymore. It's not Happy Days anymore. Back then, I think a lot of people were a lot more scheduled with their practice. Now, even though as a teacher, I would love it if my students practiced every day for like an hour or whatever you could do. It's not as common anymore that it's such a scheduled thing. Life is more fragmented now. What I like to say is try to practice every day, but if you miss a day, just practice a little more when you have the time. Have the guitar sitting on your bed so every time you sit down, you know, okay, I should practice. That's at the bare minimum. I would love it if you were so obsessed like I was learning that you just couldn't stop playing the guitar. Where you'd practice and all of a sudden mom's calling you for dinner, or 3 hours have gone by and all of a sudden you're looking down and you drool on your fretboard. I don't know if that's ever happened to you before, but that's when you're just so locked into something that nothing else exists at that moment. I would love that. But after teaching for over 30 years, I know that that's pretty rare. And something that gets overlooked quite a bit is the empty nest syndrome that has either hit a lot of people already or is happening slowly. You could just see it coming up in the future. Well, what happens when that happens is a lot of people aren't sure what to do. Maybe they retire, they have a lot of time on their hands, they feel maybe bored or even lonely. This thing can fill a lot of those voids. So you could always look forward to having something to do, something to practice, something to get better at and master. And to me, some of the most important aspects of playing a musical instrument is that you could be creative and expressive, but you could also do it with other people. You don't have to join a band. You could just find a partner, even, you know, your wife or husband. That'd be kind of cool too. You just sit together and you can learn at the same time and you sort of, you know, compel each other to keep getting better. It could be a really good thing to have somebody learning along with you. And who knows, maybe somebody can sing between you two and you could start to actually jam out your favorite songs together. There's just this different dimension when you bring somebody else in and you play together. And I hope everybody gets a chance to experience that, you know, at least with one other person, if not a full band eventually, if you want. So those are the 5 things I wanted to address as far as what I used to hear from people, you know, whenever they were a little bit hesitant or very hesitant to start playing the guitar at an advanced age. And let me know in the comment section if this changed your mind and now you're going to go for it. All right, we'll see you guys soon. Hopefully, if you want to check out my website, I've got a full lesson system there that you can sign up for as well. And we'll see you there or at the next video here on YouTube. Thank you. Bye-bye.